You're clean, aren't you? Except for your tower. You're a tower junkie, Roland.
Hello and welcome to Tower Junkies, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. Tower Junkies is a podcast that analyzes, discusses, and above all else celebrates the work of Stephen King with a special focus on his magnum opus, the Dark Tower series. We discuss the themes, characters, and mythology of the series in Palaver episodes, and review the books and comic series in Kef episodes. We also discuss King's novels related to the Dark Tower, non-Tower King novels, TV and film adaptations of King's work, and the latest news about potential Dark Tower-related adaptations. You can find more of our work at TowerJunkiesPod.com and follow us on every level of social media at TowerJunkiesPod. I'm your host, Matt Hurt, and with me today is my co-host, Mr. Tiny.
Hello.
Hi, Tiny. How's it going?
It's going good, man.
Nice. We just recorded a special thing for Patreon.
We did.
Where I berated you about the Twilight Zone.
Word.
Yeah. How can people find that if they want to listen to it?
They can go on all the social medias. They can go on the Facebooks, on the Twitters. Mm-hmm. Do we have an Instagram for T-Junks?
We do, but I don't really post that much to it.
Gotcha.
T-Junks, by the way. I like that.
I know. I should call it Tower Jays because I don't want to associate the word junk with our podcast.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that there are people out there that would associate junk with our podcast.
Well, that's their problem, not ours.
Exactly. But no, they can go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer.
Patreon, yes.
Yes.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then they could pay us money and get access to a special RSS feed.
Give us the monies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Special recordings specifically for Patreon supporters. So.
Yep.
They can do that. Yeah, so today on the podcast, Tiny, what are we talking about?
We are talking about Pet Sematary, the 1989 film.
Yes. Then the 1989 film, I don't have the information on hand right here, directed...
Mary Lambert.
And adapted from the novel by Stephen King himself, which was a surprise.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I saw it in the opening credits.
Yeah.
And when it comes to Stephen King adaptations, at least Stephen King adaptations of old, I kind of like the ones that he actually writes.
Yeah.
The one that kind of jumps to mind is I actually appreciated the Shining TV miniseries.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like Pet Sematary, the movie, is one of the, I don't want to say upper echelon Stephen King adaptations, but it's the one that I feel like has the most staying power.
Yeah.
I kind of gauge that by, well, I don't know if I necessarily say gauge it by this, but, no pun intended. Gauge it.
Yeah.
With this new adaptation that's coming out this weekend, so crazy.
Yeah.
With the new adaptation, people, and this is a pet peeve that's a snooty book reader kind of thing that I do. I'm totally aware that I'm a douchebag for this, but they say like, oh, they're remaking this movie. And it's like, they're, like with It, they said like, oh, why are they remaking It? Tim Curry was great and everything.
Yeah.
Like, they're not remaking it, they're readapting it. They're readapting the source material.
Right.
So anyway, that's me gatekeeping Stephen King's work, but no, like anytime they say that, it kind of makes me think that okay, well maybe the original adaptation that was previously made before this one has the staying power that it's focused on that. Like if they remade The Shining, people will say like, oh, they're remaking The Shining because The Shining is iconic in horror.
Right.
Yeah, so what's your relationship with the Pet Sematary 1989 movie?
I watched, I think, part of it when I was younger, like pre-teen even, like 12, 13 years old. Oh. And it, like, I don't think I watched the whole thing, but I remember the whole, like, the spinal meningitis scenes where she's, like, dealing with her sister, like, really freaked me out. Mm-hmm. And... like that's what I remembered from seeing the movie because it got to me.
Wow.
But I just hadn't ever revisited it. I kind of filed it under 80s campy cheesiness kind of movie, and just never really thought about it much. And I hadn't read the book until last year or whatever. And so I just I feel like Pet Sematary, the movie and the book are pretty well cultured. Like, I feel like most people know what it's about. They know that it's a Stephen King book or based on a Stephen King book. And I kind of know they understand the basic premise of like what it is and what happens. And so like I just considered it like a tentpole of general horror culture. And so I didn't ever feel the need to like dive into it that much. And the 1989 movie was kind of part of that. So I just didn't have much of a relationship with it for whatever reason.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the same way. I remember seeing bits and pieces when I was a kid, and nothing really stood out to me, honestly. I don't really remember much about it. So yeah. And then when I read the book, it kind of blew my mind, as we said last week.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't really have a relationship with the original. And I just realized we didn't do our Stephen King check-ins.
No, we didn't.
Don't really have any news or anything, but do you have any Stephen King check-ins?
Man, I don't. Wish I did, but I don't.
Yeah. You're currently reading Seven Eves.
Yeah, I'm still about halfway through that. I haven't had time to really read much more of it.
Okay. And then, are you also doing any audiobooks, or?
No, not right now, because I canceled my Audible
That's right.
subscription. It sucks because I've been driving so much for work, and I've been hankering to like start a book.
You can, you can still listen to the ones you have, right?
Oh yeah, I know that. But like, there's new stuff I want to get and I want to listen to, but I just, yeah.
Yeah. What Stephen King books do you have on there?
I have like Firestarter.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have the hard copy of Needful Things.
I feel like you may have it an audiobook.
I might. I can't remember what I have.
Yeah. Because I kind of want us to do...
The Talisman, Needful Things, and Firestarter.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Damn. None of those are really next on my list that I have for us, but I kind of peek behind the curtain. What I want next for us to do is, well, we're going to do Tommyknockers, which we've already read. Misery.
Okay.
So, but that won't go up until May.
Yeah.
Misery, Salem's Lot, The Body.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Do you know if you have any of those on Kindle? Because I know that you can get audiobooks cheap if you have the Kindle version.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. But yeah, I'll have to look into it.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I also want to talk about The Shining later this year. Anyway, so my Stephen King check-in is I started listening to Dreamcatcher. This was kind of on a whim, kind of just for fun, because we're not planning on reviewing it anytime soon. But kind of after listening to Tommyknockers, I kind of wanted. I feel like Dreamcatcher was a good kind of companion to that, because they're both kind of about aliens and stuff. I'm about halfway through it, and it's a little bit better than I expected, but I'm kind of struggling with it a little bit. It's one of those stories that it kind of feels like the setup, like it feels like Stephen King set up a situation, and then about, I don't know, a quarter of the way into the book, you realize that situation isn't necessarily what he wanted to do. So he switched over to something else. That's just the impression I get from the writing of the book. But okay. It's still pretty good. It's still pretty good.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So anyway, let's go into our non-spoiler, and then we'll do a spoiler review for Pet Sematary from 1989. Yeah, so plot description courtesy of IMDb is: after tragedy strikes, a grieving father discovers an ancient burial ground behind his home with the ancient power to raise the dead. This movie stars Dale Midkiff as Lewis Creed, Denise Crosby as Rachel Creed, and Fred Gwynne as Judd Crandall. Also features Miko Hughes as Gage Creed. Directed by Mary Lambert and adapted from his novel by Stephen King. Tiny, what did you think of Pet Sematary?
Pretty positive, actually. I was expecting to not really connect with it that much. Like I said before, I thought it was going to fall into the 80s kind of campy cheesiness category, but I think this movie holds up pretty well.
I agree.
I was pleasantly surprised by it. I don't think it's not. I think some of the campiness is there, but I don't think it really drags the movie down. I don't think it's the bad camp or whatever. But I think it's the story runs really well. When you get to like the climax and the denouement, it's actually paced really well. Like we get to sit with those moments of the story like more than I thought that we would. I thought it'd be a little more rushed than it was, but I was pleasantly surprised with that. And then there's just so many things to like. I think they did a really good job with the setting, or like the actual homes that they chose, whichever. I don't know if they built those for the movie or what. I'm sure they were already there. Those looked good, and like I love the kind of constant foreshadowing that's present in the book of the Orinco trucks driving by. They incorporated that into the movie really well.
Yeah.
Like I was like, man, it's a literal foreshadowing coming by all the time. And like, I knew it was coming, obviously, but it was almost like scary in its own right. That like you see those trucks rolling by. Like I'm not a father, but I can just imagine having a child by a road like that. It would just literally drive you nuts every time you saw one of those trucks just flying down the road. They just captured that really well in the movie. And I think Dale Midkiff is not a very good actor. I didn't appreciate it. He just was very, very vanilla, and just I really didn't care for him. But it was saved by Fred Gwynne. I mean, Fred Gwynne was he's an iconic actor, anyways, for Herman Munster.
Right.
But I think he's almost equally iconic for playing Judd Crandall.
I think so too.
Really well in this movie. I mean, he just got that wise face and the perfect voice, and he's a very imposing but not threatening kind of person. He just has that presence to him, and I think he was just perfect for this role, and I really appreciated him. So,
Nice.
I was pleasantly surprised with how much I liked the movie.
That's awesome, and I'm kind of going to echo a lot of those sentiments myself.
Nice.
I think the setting of it was very great. There is something to be said about the sound design, I think, in the movie.
Okay.
Like, specifically when they're at the Pet Sematary and you hear, like, the cicadas buzzing, and, like, just the sound of it has just such a wildlife sound to it that it just seemed like it transports you into the Pet Sematary.
Yeah.
That, and then, like you said, I loved Fred Gwynne as Judd Crandall. I feel like maybe this is a bias on my part, but I kind of feel like hearing Michael C. Hall read Judd the way he's written, obviously, kind of made me a little less impressed with Fred Gwynne.
Okay.
But I still think, like you said, he does have that old wise persona to him, kind of a mentor father figure kind of look to him that I think really worked well here. And Dale Midkiff, I agree. Yes, he is very vanilla and very bland and just kind of I don't know. He was kind of wooden.
Yeah. Very stiff.
Which, in the first half of the movie, kind of was cumbersome to me. But in the second half, when his character is like just grieving and upset, like my neighbor's kid, it kind of like, it seems like the kind of wooden acting he kind of leaned into it, I guess.
Yeah.
And it kind of like that made it stabilized the performance a little bit for me.
Okay.
But the constant fear of the Orinco trucks was really well handled, I agree.
Yeah.
In the big scene that we'll go into in spoilers, was incredibly visceral and like almost gratuitous in the way that it was shown, because it's like it's graphic without showing anything,
right?
But it's still like it gets the point across quite clearly.
Yeah.
I do really appreciate the way that Stephen King was able to pare down his story and like adapt it. Like I feel like as an adaptation, it's really strongly written in the way that it, like you said, that last act of the movie kind of really just moves and is very it moves, but you sit with it and you live with it and everything.
Yeah,
And it's very impactful that way. I just feel like the way that the movie overall is paced was really good, considering that it was the author that adapted it. Like,
right.
I would be I feel like there's less concessions to be made if the author is adapting the book, but it seems like he made the right choices and helped make a well-paced adaptation of one of his best novels.
Mm-hmm. The burial ground set was also really well done, and the cemetery, the concentric circles of the actual Pet Sematary, was all. I thought that was just good set design generally. So
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Big changes. There really wasn't that many big changes.
Yeah,
Judd not having a wife.
Right, Norma wasn't in which I didn't need to be, I don't think.
Didn't need to be, and kind of the stand-in for Norma was their nanny.
Yeah, and I didn't think that needed to be in the movie either.
Honestly, I didn't either.
Yeah.
Like, I understand the reason why it was so that, they had that, death is a part of life kind of conversation with Ellie.
Right.
But it just seemed like I get the rationale that they would do that instead of having Norma as a character. Because then that just, to have a character that's not connected to the family in a meaningful way is a way to kind of circumvent having a lot of screen time devoted to them.
Right.
Especially if they were to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I could kind of take or leave it, I guess.
I understood what he was going for with it.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was necessary.
Yeah. The cameo though.
Yeah.
that was a trip. That was fun.
That was funny.
Like, I knew it was coming, but
right.
Yeah. that was fun.
Yeah.
Anything else to say in non-spoilers?
I don't think so.
Brief, but...
Yeah, brief, but to the point.
All right, well, let's go into spoilers for Pet Sematary 1989. Obviously, we're going to be spoiling the book as well, but, I mean, the movie pretty closely follows the book anyway, so, yeah. Let's go into spoilers for Pet Sematary 1989. Victor Pascal, I think first of all, the actor I thought was a little hammy.
Yeah.
But I love the makeup effects. Very gruesome.
Yeah.
And unapologetic.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it came up that makeup effects came up later.
Yeah.
And the last scene of the movie.
Right.
The wife with her eyeball being gone, basically. That was pretty.
That was cool.
That was, well, I liked that.
Yeah. And what did you think about the way that the kind of spirits were used? Like, Victor Pascal is kind of guiding Rachel back to Ludlow in order to stop him.
Right. I thought that was a little. I didn't mind it. I don't think it was bad or anything, but I feel like that wasn't really present in the book, was it?
No, and I think I think the idea was to have at least Victor Pascal be like a conduit to the character's inner thoughts. So like, when he's talking to Lewis at the end, when Lewis is taking Rachel to the Pet Sematary, he's basically just saying the things that were in Lewis's head, and like they're having like their inner conflict there.
That's true. Yeah, it was the character was a useful tool in that regard.
Yeah,
I will say that. Yeah,
yeah, because it obviously inner monologue inner thoughts don't really translate well to the film medium, but
yeah,
the actor I feel like he just didn't really do that well for me.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
So, but the I think the the scene where Gage is killed, it's, again, knew it was coming and all that stuff, but I thought that was super well done. I mean, because I was wincing when it happened, and like they didn't. One of the things, one of the compliments I have of the film is that it doesn't shy away from the hard, disturbing parts of the film.
Absolutely.
It focuses on them, actually. It kind of amplifies those difficult parts, and it's like, no one wants to see a 2-year-old struck by a truck.
Exactly.
But it's... And you don't see a 2-year-old get struck by a truck, but there's still... You still feel it, I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Like, there are quick cuts between Gage's face in the street and the front of at his eye level of the truck.
It's great editing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And just very, like I said, it's visceral and just almost gratuitous, even though they don't show anything except for a shoe flying.
Right.
Right. Which makes me kind of laugh because there's a whole bit online, like a meme, where people are like if they see like a video of someone or a gif of someone falling down or something, or getting like injured, they'll be like, well, is he okay? Is he dead? And then they're like, oh, he has his shoes on. He's not dead.
Nice.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, that. I wanted to talk about Dale Midkiff real quick.
Okay.
I kind of feel like it was a bizarre kind of thing because, like I said, his acting isn't the strongest, and I think Jason Clarke is a good actor.
Yeah.
But like, I was watching, I was like, is he the reason why they cast Jason Clarke? Because they look so similar to me.
They do look similar,
and they have such a similar kind of way about them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just did that resonate with you? I guess.
No, I didn't really think about that. I feel like Dale Midkiff is like a lost brother of is his name? Tim Daly from Wings?
Oh yeah, Tim Daly.
Tim Daly, yeah, they look like they're brothers straight up.
I could kind of see that.
I see that resemblance more between him and those two than I do with Jason Clarke, but yeah.
Interesting. The kid who played Gage, first of all, cutest kid.
Yeah, he's adorable.
Yeah, and like he went on to play. Was it Kindergarten Cop, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah. And like, because he has such a recognizable face, and I couldn't place where I knew him from, and I looked him up, and I was like, oh yeah, that's the kid from Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
And also Mercury Rising.
Yeah, he was in Spawn briefly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. Like he's apparently, gotten work and everything, so that's good.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the cat. Let's talk about Church.
Yes.
It's one of the reasons why I'm excited for this new one is that they clearly like worked with the cats, and like it looks like they're getting like really good cat acting.
Yeah.
But this kind of felt like they did their best. Like the effect, like the glowing eyes and stuff.
Yeah.
A little too cheesy and dated for me.
Yeah.
But it's still a good little kitty.
It was a very cute kitty.
Sorry. Yeah.
I liked the gray. The gray coat was really pretty cat.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and like they didn't shy away from, at the end where Lewis kills the cat.
Yeah.
The reincarnated Church. And they I don't know how they filmed that, but it didn't look like he was holding some lifeless stuffed thing.
I know.
I mean, I don't know how they filmed it. I'm very curious. Maybe they tranked a real cat or something like that.
That'd be interesting.
I don't know, because it looked really real. Kind of disturbing, frankly.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. And seeing like earlier in the movie, seeing the dead cat, I was just like, oh, that's just it's like I couldn't handle it.
I agree.
Poor kitty. I totally forgot to mention that there was Stephen King news, but I'll screw it.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll just throw it in here. There's a really good article by Anthony Bresnikan on EW, where he interviews Stephen King about Pet Sematary and the movies and the novel and everything. Really good, really, really fantastic interview.
Cool.
And it's funny because at one point, and this will tie it back into our current conversation. At one point, Stephen King says that he's talking about the inception of the novel, and he's saying that when they lived, when they lived in, I forget where it was in Maine, where he was being where he was working at a university. But he was like, when we lived there, when we had where we discovered the Pet Sematary, his daughter, her cat died, and they buried the cat in the Pet Cemetery. And like it's crazy because like that Pet Sematary's still there, like the cat's still there.
Yeah.
And he said that. Let me actually find it real quick because I tweeted about it on Tower Junkies Pod, but I get a huge kick out of it. Okay, yeah. Stephen King is quoted in the article as saying, quote, "My daughter's cat died and we buried it in the Pet Cemetery. That was Smucky. She made a little cross and said, Smucky, he was obedient. And I mean, he was a cat. He wasn't fucking obedient, but she loved that cat." It's like, that's great. That's fantastic. Yeah, but anyway, so the cat acting I thought was okay. And I'm looking forward to the new one.
Totes.
What did you think, like you said, the aftermath and everything kind of coming apart at the end of the movie, or coming to fruition at the end of the movie, with Zelda and with Gage coming back and all of that stuff? How did you feel like that was depicted?
Yeah, I thought that was well done, and like it's a credit to, I think Stephen King writing it and everyone involved, but that you sit with that climax and that denouement. It's appropriately paced and long. Like I think from the point where we see Lewis going, from when Rachel and Ellie get on the plane till the end of the movie, it's like 30 minutes. I mean, he goes and digs up the body of his son, and you know what happens from there. He comes back to life, and he goes, and Judd gets killed, and then she shows up, and it's just like it's. I don't want to use the phrase drawn out, because it's not drawn out. That's like got a negative connotation. It's appropriately paced. Like I appreciated how much attention was paid to that part of the story, because you could have just glossed over it, or it could have been, parts of it could have been cut for edit for time or whatever, Yeah. But it was well done, and I think, all the like hallucinations that Lewis is going through and all that, it's just, that was just cool. I thought it was well done, and it was disturbing to watch a father have to stick a needle in his son's neck to kill him, and the kid was just crying, and it was like I really felt it. I was like, man, that's just harsh as shit. That
was probably the best moment of the movie for me.
Yeah.
Like just it, like you could feel just the anguish of that, just as like the father character and as a repossessed demon child.
Yeah, Dale Midkiff did a pretty decent job actually in that moment.
Oh yeah.
But in just like the whole, it's creepy. The kid like laughing in the distance was creepy as shit when Judd is trying to find him and stuff like that. And then I was again, I'm not sure how this was filmed or whatever, how they did it, but like the kid actor like coming in to bite the jugular of Judd Crandall. I was like, what did they tell that kid to get him to film that scene?
I was wondering that too.
Like, are you playing a game? Like, what did you tell the kid? Like, we want you to go bite his neck.
Right.
I don't know how you do that and that kid not have permanent damage from it.
Yeah. Also, the Achilles
it was fucked up. The Achilles tendon.
That I kind of feel like that was something that stuck with me throughout like my childhood and everything. Because for like years, I can't handle that like in movies. Like,
really?
Like I heard that like one of the Hostel movies like has
the first
that.
Hostel, yeah.
Yeah, and like I've never seen it just because of that. And also I don't really like torture porn, but but yeah, and like seeing that in the movie, like it was well done, but I was just like, I don't.
It's one of those things that makes you quiver.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
All right. So I just appreciated that. The ending and the denouement and the climax and all that just tied together really well. And, when we talked about the book last time, I talked about how it's like one of my favorite endings ever. And like, I have a really concise visual of how I would like film it in a movie or whatever. And like, I think this movie got really close to what I had pictured, and it's a good ending.
Yeah. I like that it's a good ending. I prefer the book ending, obviously.
Yeah.
But I like how it expands upon. I think I like how it expands upon it because we see her, and like you said, the makeup effect is amazing.
Yeah.
And then the ending is just her grabbing a knife.
Right.
And I kind of was like, okay, I'm okay with that, but I like the ambiguity of the ending of the book. I prefer that over this.
Yeah. So.
The whole spinal meningitis Zelda thing. When I watched this movie, it was like around midnight, and it was like, when was it? Like Friday or Saturday, I think. But we got like a little bit of a storm here, like just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
And like I didn't know that it was supposed to storm or anything. Couldn't hear if it was raining or not. But like the one time that the lightning struck and there was a thunderclap and everything, lightning, like it lit up my living room a little bit. And I was like, is that lightning? Like, this all happened in the span of like 30 seconds.
Okay.
The light shone through my balcony window, which is right next to my next to my couch and my TV. I'm watching it. Like, we get to the scene where Rachel has a vision of Zelda, all, spinal meningitis-y.
Mm-hmm.
And as Zelda is on screen, and super creepy, light flashes. And then I have enough time to think is that lightning? And then just boom, thunderclap. Like,
oh my god!
As I'm seeing Zelda on screen, it's just like, this is like, I was just like, my brain processed it all together, and it was just like, that was a pretty cool moment.
Nice.
In this apartment.
Nice.
So yeah. Anyway, that's just worth mentioning that was really effective and cool.
Yeah.
And I really like the way that Zelda was implemented in the movie.
Right.
Yeah. And again, it follows the trajectory of the book pretty closely.
Definitely.
The fight between Rachel's dad and Lewis felt a little undercooked just because.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think that's kind of the byproduct of adapting it to film.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious how they're going to handle all of that, if they're going to handle any of that in the new movie.
Yeah, I'm curious.
We'll find out soon enough.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on Pet Sematary?
I don't think so. Like I said, I was surprised how much I liked it, kind of.
Yeah, me too. I had not every intention, but I had the thought that I might go ahead and watch Pet Sematary 2 and do like a brief little bonus review.
Yeah. Did
not get around to it. Don't really have any desire to see it.
Yeah.
So sorry guys, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I remember I made that stupid Edward Furlong joke. Anyway.
You did.
I did. Yeah, I was going to tie it together with something else. But anyway, I think that's our review of Pet Sematary the movie.
Yep.
Looking forward to the new one. Are you going to be able to see it this weekend?
I'm going to try my damnedest.
Yeah. Same here. Well, I mean, I am going to see it. I actually have a tentative ticket for Thursday night at, there was a screening at 7 and one at 9:45, and I had to get the one at 9:45 because the one at 7 was almost full.
Jeez.
Yeah. I might end up canceling that and getting a Friday ticket because 9:45.
It's late.
Get out at 11:45. Have to be at work at 7.
Late for school night.
Exactly. But I kind of wanted to end this episode by saying something that I should have said earlier in the episode, a thought that I had that has been consuming my thoughts for a couple of weeks now. Over on Anthology, my solo side project podcast where I review The Twilight Zone as a first-time viewer, I'm currently doing a bonus episode review series of the new Twilight Zone by Monkey Paw Productions and Jordan Peele on CBS All Access, so check that out at anthologypod.com. But I've been prepping another bonus episode review series that's been long overdue on that podcast, but it's a review series of Amazon Prime's Philip K. Dick's Electric Dreams. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember if I mentioned this last week or not, but watching that and reading the short stories, Philip K. Dick was an incredibly prolific science fiction writer and very vivid and everything. He was I have become a Philip K. Dick head. And in doing that, all I kept thinking, and watching Electric Dreams and everything, all I kept thinking was how much I just really, really want a Stephen King episode by episode anthology show where every episode is an adaptation of another Stephen King short story.
That'd be cool.
I can't imagine and it's asking a lot because, because it, like, we have a ton of Stephen King stuff. That's the word I was like. So I want like an anthology series with standalone episodes based on the works of Stephen King. I would want that.
Yeah.
And it's asking a lot because we already have a lot of stuff. Castle Rock, the It adaptations, Pet Sematary, new books every year pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we are very spoiled, but God, how great would that be?
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be awesome. And it would be the perfect marriage of Tower Junkies and Anthology. Obsessive viewers, you know, that show can do whatever it wants. But yeah, God, that would be great. And they kind of did that in the 90s, I think, with Nightmares and Dreamscapes. There was a TNT miniseries.
Yeah, I watched some of it.
Did you? Was it?
It was like late 2000, like 2008 or something like that.
Was it really?
Yeah, I don't think it was 90s.
Interesting. I thought it was like, Anyway, do you remember much of it?
Not much. I don't think it was that great personally.
Yeah.
I think I only watched like two of the episodes out of like 6 or 8 or however many there were.
Jeez.
Oh,
yeah, you're right. It was 2006.
Okay. Yeah, I remember the one with William Hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of, because there's no dialogue in it. It was interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Huh.
but probably watch them at some point.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll eventually cover it on the show, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I want that to happen again.
Yeah.
But be a long like even still name it Nightmares and Dreamscapes. That's a perfect name for an anthology show based on Stephen King's work.
Mm-hmm.
So Hollywood, get to doing that. Like that, I think that would be perfect. And really, I think I just love the anthology format. So,
oh yeah.
So I just want more of that.
Cool.
Yep. So next time on the podcast, we are going to be talking about Pet Sematary 2019.
Yep.
And we are embarking on one of the busiest months in our young podcasting lives.
Yeah.
It is. Holy crap! This is gonna be an endurance test.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited for it. Yeah, we've already talked about it, but we're doing a lot of stuff. And check all of our podcasts, Obsessive Viewer, Tower Junkies, which you're listening to now, and Anthology, for more information. And yeah, any parting thoughts before we get to getting?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Long days and pleasant nights.
And may you have twice the number.
Tower Junkies is edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. For a full archive of our episodes, go to TowerJunkiesPod.com/archive. You can also like our Facebook page at Facebook.com/TowerJunkiesPod and follow us on Twitter at TowerJunkiesPod. If you enjoy the show, please take a couple minutes to leave us a rating and a quick review on Apple Podcasts. This is the easiest way to support what we do, and all it costs is just a little bit of your time. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can make a PayPal donation at TowerJunkiesPod.com/donate, or support us on Patreon for recurring donations and access to commentary tracks and B-roll audio recorded exclusively for patrons at Patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. For official Obsessive Viewer merch, including shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more, visit our TeePublic store. You can find a link to the store in the show notes of this episode and at ObsessiveViewer.com/donate. Or you can simply search for Obsessive Viewer at teepublic.com. For information about our annual live event showcasing short horror films from local filmmakers, check out ShocktoberInIrvington.com. And for an archive of all our events, as well as news about potential future events, head over to ObsessiveViewer.com/live. For more podcast content, you can find our flagship movie and TV review and discussion show, The Obsessive Viewer Podcast, at ObsessiveViewer.com and on Twitter at ObsessiveViewer. You can also find Anthology, Matt's solo podcast covering The Twilight Zone, and other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology TV shows at AnthologyPod.com and OV Anthology Pod on Twitter. And finally, check out The Secular Perspective, Tiny's Side Project podcast, which tackles current events and life's big questions from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda at thesecularperspective.com. Music for the podcast is provided with permission from Fingers T on YouTube. Additional bumper music is provided courtesy of As Good As It Gets, which can be found at facebook.com/asgoodasitgetsband. Thank you so much for listening. Long days and pleasant nights.